Hello everybody, welcome back to our channel. For today's video, I am going to be doing a story time video. If you guys didn't see the last story time video that I did about my finding out I was pregnant and a little bit of my pregnancy journey, make sure you go watch that one before you watch this one, because for this story time, as you can tell by the title, I am going to be doing my labor and delivery story time. Throughout the video, you will hear various noises in the background. My toddler is watching Princess and the Frog right now, so you might hear her toys go off or her talking. November 12th, 2019 at 5 a.m. I woke up and I just thought I was having regular Braxton Hicks contractions, kind of like the pre-contractions to get your body ready for actual contractions, but they were making me uncomfortable enough to actually wake me up, and I was kind of just trying to fall back asleep, trying to roll over, waiting for them to, stop like they normally do. A couple hours go by, so Chris is waking up for work now, and it's about 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, okay, I'm getting more uncomfortable and they're not stopping, they're not letting down. So I go into the bathroom and I'm like, Chris, I could very much so be in early labor right now. I think I'm having actual legitimate contractions. And he was like, okay, do I need to not go into work today, or do you still want me to go in? And I said, as of right now, go to work. And I will keep you updated and let you know if you need to come home early. So he went to work, and pretty much right after he left for work, I started panicking because I was alone, and I'm like, I have to be in early labor right now. At this point, I was 6 days past my due date. So I called my sister and I was like, I think I'm in early labor. It's been happening since 5 a.m. and it hasn't stopped. They're not consistent, but I am timing them. Some were 7 minutes apart, some were 5, some were 3, some were 10, so they were literally all over the place. She was like, I actually have a brunch planned with some friends, if you want to come. And I was like, I don't really want to go and do that right now. So she just picked me up and then took me to my parents' house. Conveniently this day, my parents were supposed to be driving down to Campbell River to pick out a fireplace that they were getting put in during this time too. So I get dropped off at their house and I'm like, hey, pretty sure I'm in early labor. They're like, okay, well, do you still want us to go? Mommy's trying to film a story time about the day you decided to arrive upon this earth. Here you go. Here's a tookie. So my parents were like, do you still want us to go? What's going on? And I was like, well, let's just play it by ear. I had a cup of tea, trying to relax, and they were just getting more and more uncomfortable as time went on. I remember them feeling like period cramps. They weren't that bad, but it was definitely still uncomfortable and still not consistent. A couple hours went by. I think it was about noon at this time, and nothing had changed. They were still getting a little bit worse, still all over the place, not being consistent at all. So my parents were like, okay, we're gonna go pick out the fireplace. You sit here on this chair and watch a movie and do not move. You're not allowed to get up unless it's to go to the bathroom. And I was like, okay. By this point, my water hasn't broken either. So I had Georgia with me on one side, cuddling me, and then I had my parents' dog, Santa Maria, on the other side of me, cuddling me as well. I think I watched the new live-action Beauty and the Beast movie. A couple hours went by, my sister called me and said that my nephews were actually supposed to be getting off the bus to come to my parents, because they always do that, but my parents completely forgot because they were so focused on going to pick out their fireplace. So my sister was like, I'm so sorry, can you stay at the house and watch them for a bit, and then when I come and pick them up around 3 o'clock, I can bring you home. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. At this point, I don't think I was in active labor. I think I was still in early labor, but it was still getting really uncomfortable. So I still haven't moved off this chair. My nephews come in, I say, hey, auntie's in early labor, so I'm gonna be having a baby soon and I don't feel good right now, so just chill out on the couch and pick out a movie and we can watch it together. And then my sister comes, picks us all up. I leave a note for my parents because they don't have a cell phone. My sister drops me off at home. At this point, I'm just chilling out on my couch, trying to move as less as possible because I don't want my water to break when I'm home alone. Chris actually got home late from work this night, so he didn't get home until like 7 o'clock. And by the time he walked through that door, I was like, I'm done. I can't handle the pain anymore. I'm pretty sure I had contacted the maternity ward and they said, if the pain is too much, then come in and we can give you a shot of morphine. I was like, okay, I'm still gonna try and ride it out for as long as possible because I don't want to go to the hospital and get sent home. I took a shower, I tried to lie down in bed and relax, take a little bit of a nap. By this point, it's like 9:30, 10, and I was like, yeah, no, I can't fall asleep. Like, this is not happening. They're just getting worse. I have to, like, something's gotta give. I gotta go and get some pain relief. Me and Chris dropped off Georgia at my sister's house for the night, and we had all our hospital bags ready in case they wanted to admit us that night when we got there. Because the hospital was closed at this point, we had to go through emergency, and then they just sent us through and up to the maternity ward. So we got there and they checked me, and I think I was like 2.5, 3 centimeters dilated at the time. So all they could do for me was give me a shot of morphine. They did hook me up to the Doppler just to make sure that everything with the baby was okay. Her heart rate was fine. Everything was good. There was no concerns. We were still there for like a couple hours. So by the time we got home, it was like 2:30 a.m. I fell asleep for maybe 3 hours. I woke up around 5:30 in severe pain. The contractions were so much worse at this point. I remember like cuddling Chris, but I was like wrapped around his head, like his head was right here, and I was just squeezing every time I had a contraction. Meanwhile, I'm trying to let him sleep. I get up and I'm like, I'm gonna let you sleep. He was freaking just as tired as I was. Maybe not because he wasn't going through labor, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He was tired regardless. I remember thinking, okay, back to my prenatal classes that I took. I'm like, all right, this is the time where I'm gonna wanna hydrate myself, maybe eat like something really light because I'm not gonna be eating for a while. And at this point, I think I woke up in active labor, but I was still telling myself I was in early labor because my contractions still weren't 5 minutes apart. They were still 10, 7, 3, 5, all over the place. So I was like, well, they told me not to come back to the hospital until my contractions were consistently 5 minutes apart. So I was like, again, I don't want to go there and be sent home again. So I was trying to stay home for as long as I possibly could. Got some like water, some juice. I think I had like some yogurt, maybe some applesauce. And I remember just like being at the end of this table in a chair and just like curled up in like the fetal position, trying to breathe through each contraction and time it correctly. And then Chris woke up about an hour later and I had called my sister, as my sister was pretty much my midwife at this point. So I was like, hey, I need you. After she dropped off her kids, my nephews at school. So she came over at about 8:30, 9 o'clock with Georgia and just helped out. Like, she knew what I needed before I knew what I needed, and she just did it without me asking. So she was there for me to lean on, literally. Not that Chris wasn't, but it was, you know, this is the first time for both me and Chris, so he was kind of like, you need to tell me what I need to do, and I was like, I can't tell you because I don't even know what you need to do. So it was just nice to have my sister there to do everything without being asked. She just knew what to do, and that was like the best thing I could have ever asked for. Probably another hour goes by. It's maybe 10:30, and I called my dad because I know that my mom has one of those big exercise balls, and my sister is like, that's gonna help you like dilate faster. So hopefully maybe your water will break or we can get you to the hospital sooner. My dad brought over some Gatorade and the exercise ball, and then he hung out for about an hour. And as soon as I sat on that ball, regretted it. Wanted to pop the damn thing. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, it's not funny. I was like, are you kidding me? Like there's no way that I'm gonna be sitting on this. I got through maybe 1 or 2 contractions on the ball and I was like, F this, get me off of this thing. My dad was like, all right, I did my due diligence. I can't see you in pain. I don't want to sit here and see you in pain. So he was just here for moral support for Chris for about an hour or so, and then he went home to my mom. And then about 12:30, I get a call from the hospital, and they're like, hey, your doctor actually called and told us to book you in for an ultrasound because we just want to make sure that everything is going okay. And I was like, an ultrasound? Like, I was like, you guys know I'm in early labor, right? And they were like, yeah, we just need you to come in for that. And I was like, oh, okay. So my sister took Georgia back to her house. We packed our bags back up and went to the hospital, and my sister met us there. And everything was fine with the baby. So my sister was like, all right, like enough is enough. Let's just go up to maternity ward and they can check you and see if they can admit you. So they checked me and I was about 4.5 centimeters dilated. So they were like, okay, we can admit you. And as of right now, you're the only one in the ward. So that was great for me. Me and Chris got put in a room and then my doctor got called. She came to check me maybe like an hour later. She said that I was about 5 centimeters so they could break my water. Some of you know if you've had kids before, some of you may not know. After they break your water, you have like a limited amount of time to get that baby out because you don't want any risk of bacteria or infection since that gate is now open. There's nothing blocking it. There's no, amniotic sac around it because it's been popped. So they broke my water. At this point, I had all my family in the hospital with me.
You're bad for that.
Hello, little baby on the way. Mommy's doing beautifully. Papa's here.
Oh, yeah.
Auntie Steffi. Daddy. Nanny.
So it was very busy. There was a lot of people in the room with me, but I wouldn't have had it any other way. They asked me if I wanted any, drugs or epidural or anything, and I said no. I'm gonna try to do this without. Quite a few hours went by. Everything was going good. She was staying healthy. Her heartbeat was regular. At this point, I was in the shower, like in the bathtub, sitting on a stool in the shower, and Chris had the shower head going from my belly to my back because that was the only way I was in the least amount of pain. I probably sat there and didn't move for like a good couple hours. I'm gonna have to keep feeding you cookies just so you stop screaming. Not cool. My doctor came into the bathroom and it was like, hey, I know you said you didn't want any drugs, but because you've been laboring for so long, I can tell you're really tired. I was basically passing out in the bathtub, but I couldn't because I was in so much pain and I was just focused on breathing through my contractions. She was like, I want to get you hooked up to Pitocin so we can make you dilate faster, but because you're already in so much pain, I also want to give you an epidural so that hopefully you can be pain-free and you can sleep for a couple hours before we push this baby out. They ask everybody to leave the room minus the nurses and the doctor and me and Chris. So I had one person taking blood from this arm, one person hooking me up to an IV in this hand, and I had Chris in front of me while the anesthesiologist was giving me my epidural. And she was like, listen, if you go through a contraction, just let me know and we'll work through it together. And I was like, okay. And right before she was about to put the needle in my back, I was like, yeah, I'm having a contraction. And she was like, okay, just breathe through that contraction. And I remember looking at Chris and seeing his face. He was so freaked out. I don't know what he was seeing because it was behind me, but it almost started to freak me out. So I was like, hey, I just need you to look at me, focus on me. Don't look at what's going on around me. It's just me and you right now, like nothing else. He was helping me breathe through my contractions. Everything was fine. I think this freaked out my parents a little bit. My dad was pacing back and forth. They were trying to tell my family to get some rest and they were like, no heckin' way are we able to sleep right now, because I'm the youngest, so I'm the baby, and the baby was having a baby, so it was a big deal in my family at the time. After I was all hooked up, my family was allowed to come back into the room and I was trying to rest for a couple of hours. My doctor was doing the same. She was like, I'm gonna go and try to get a couple hours of sleep before we gotta come back and push out this baby. And I was like, all right, sounds good. After they give give you the epidural, they prop you up on a pillow like right here, and then they ask you to lie on one side, and then after like 10, 15, I don't know how many minutes, but after an amount of time, they ask you to switch onto the other side so the epidural can evenly spread in your body. I was still feeling contractions, the really slightest amount on my left side, so they wanted me to lie on that side. And every time I tried to lie on that side, her heart rate would drop. I don't even know if I got sleep because time was going by like fast but slow at this point. So it's about 10 to 2. Anna's been sleeping the last few hours because she got an epidural, helped her relax a bit. She's just got to 8 centimeters. Things are happening. Gonna be probably pushing the baby out around 2:30. My guess is girl. We got an excited dad who can't sleep.
That's
and
right.
a happy, tired family. And I just stole some cranberry juice.
All right.
I remember the nurses being out of the room and I was trying to sleep, or I was sleeping, and then my sister came up to me and she was like, hey, and she actually shook me and she was like, you need to move or switch positions because the baby's heart rate is dropping again. And that, I don't know, I think it was because it was my sister saying it, but that freaked me out. As soon as she told me that, she like ran out of the room to go get one of the nurses. Everything was all good. They went and got my doctor. My doctor came back. She was like, okay, can you still feel your contractions? I said, I can only feel them a little bit on my left side and it just feels like a little bit of pressure. He was like, all right, so when you feel that pressure, you can start to push. I was like, come again? Okay, we're doing this now. This is happening right now. So it started off with Chris being right here by my head because we both agreed that he could not see what was going on down there or he was gonna pass out. So he was up here by my head. He was in charge of making sure I was staying hydrated throughout pushing. So he had a straw and some water or juice, I think. One of my sisters on one leg and my other sister on the other leg. My mom sitting directly in action right behind the doctor on the couch with her camera filming, and then she also had Chris's mom and sister and aunt on FaceTime. And then I had my 2 nurses and my doctor, and my dad was in my peripherals, but not where he could see what was going on because he had no interest in watching his youngest daughter give birth. After a few pushes, Chris is like, hey, Steph, like, do you want to switch? And I was like, what? No. We agreed that that was not going to happen. And he was like, no, I'm full of adrenaline. I want to see what's going on. I want to be down here. I'm fine. And I was like, okay. So, him and my sister switched, and my pushes are going great. After about a half an hour, my doctor was like, hey, I need someone to grab the forceps. And I was like, heck to the no, I don't want those. I didn't say that, but I heard her say that to the nurse, and I just remember, okay, I'm getting this baby out right now. So I gave some really good, really hard, thorough pushes. We didn't need the forceps. She came whipping out, and she came out in probably one of the most grossest ways possible. She had pooped while she was like being pushed out. So when she came out, there was literally an explosion of diarrhea. While I was in labor, me, my doctor, and Chris had talked about who was going to announce the birth. She was like, do you want me to do that, or do you want to do that? And I was like, no, I think Chris could do it. And he was like, yeah, I want to do that. So I let my family know, don't look when when the baby comes out, just let Chris look first, and he's gonna say what gender it is. So my doctor had the baby, came out, and then lifted it up to Chris, and Chris is looking, and my sister's like, what is it? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, what do you mean you don't know? My doctor kind of like moved to the umbilical cord and like shoved it right in his face, and he was like, it's a girl! I was so shocked. I thought I was having a boy, like I mentioned in the last story time. Like, what? There's no way that I just had a girl. But I did, and she came out. I was not disappointed or mad. I was just really shocked. They bring her over to, I don't even know what it's called, like the incubator thing, and take her temperature. Basically making sure that everything's fine. I was a little bit occupied at the moment. I think there's some video of that, so whatever video footage I have from my labor and delivery, I will be including within this story time like I did last time. I think it has Grandpa's nose. It's got the wave there. Oh, morning. Her eyes are wide.
Oh, I'm stretching you, I know, I'm sorry. 52 centimeters, 51 and a half maybe, we'll say.
She was born at 3:05 a.m. She was 7 pounds 3 ounces. She was born on November 14th, 2019, and the doctor that ended up being on call for my labor and delivery was Dr. Wilson, and that is the doctor that did most of my pap smears and the one that I ended up sticking with towards the end. So I was really happy and thankful. It worked out perfectly. She was really healthy. There was no concerns with her growth. She was perfect. I couldn't have asked for a better birth story, even though I wanted to do it without drugs because I was in labor for so long. That just wasn't the case. And I'm very thankful that I was able to get the epidural, because if I didn't get that at the time, I'm sure I probably would have had to have an emergency C-section. So I'm really glad that it didn't come to that, because I really didn't want one. So yeah, I got to give vaginal birth, and it was great because I couldn't feel a thing. So I give it to the moms that do vaginal birth with no drugs, because I don't even know what that feels like. But laboring with my contractions for as long as I did was enough for me. I was very thankful to have a very big, loving family, both mine and Chris's, to help support me, make sure I was getting naps and taking a shower, whatever I needed, they were here for. My mom was here almost every day up until Chris's family came to help me out as well. Even though I didn't ask for it, they were just here to help, because they all know as mothers that even though you don't ask for it, you need it. And it's nice to just have it. Now you're over a year old, you're happy, healthy, crazy, tired toddler at the moment. If I left anything out or you guys want to know anything more, give me some comments down below and I will make sure to answer them for you. I think in my next story time video, I will kind of go into recovery and postpartum, because I find that those are two things that aren't talked about enough. So I'm going to do a separate story time on those in a bit. I also will do a separate story time apart from the recovery and postpartum journey of her hitting all her milestones and when she kind of hit those, because I have most of them written down in her first year baby journal, so we can go through this together, and that'll be another separate story time as well. So make sure you guys subscribe down below so you guys don't miss those. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!